Hey, what's up everybody? My name is Joel and today I have a super fun product comparison video for you guys. Now, today I'm going to be comparing two LED Batten fixtures. Now these fixtures are usually used in stage lighting for concerts and for theaters and all over the place. And basically what an LED Batten is supposed to do, or what a Batten fixture is supposed to do in stage lighting, is it's a very long linear fixture that is meant to make very consistent washes on either uplighting for scrim. You'll see right here I'll be using this garage door today in the shop. But sometimes they can do uplighting. Other times they're actually used to wash the stage and for even front lighting some people's faces. And then even other times they'll actually turn them around and have them face the audience to do some really neat eye candy effects. I've seen them used a lot of ways. So today we're going to get into both these fixtures in front of me and talk about how they can be used and which one's better for which purpose. So in front of me over here to the left, I have a Chauvet Ovation B-1965FC. Again, this is made by Chauvet Professional. And then over here to the right, we've got the Elation COLOUR CHORUS 48. And then again, that's made by Elation Professional. Now, both these fixtures, I'm super excited to have both these fixtures in front of me because these are essentially the same product, just made by different manufacturers. So I'm really curious to see which fixture is going to pull off better color mixing and just better like usability and flexibility for use, again, in stage lighting for concerts and for theater use. So to get it started off here, I've already kind of made up a list of initial impressions that I'll kind of share with you guys. So first off, one thing that's always really important for designers while planning out your battens, because what you guys will usually do is plan out, like if you have, let's say, like a 20-foot long like cyclorama on the back of your theater, then you're going to need a certain amount of you're going to need a certain length of Batten fixtures to consistently watch that. And so it's always important to know how long each of these fixtures are so that you can actually plan out your plots correctly and get your cable lengths correct and stuff like that. So starting off with the Ovation, again, these are both supposed to be about 48 inches long, but this guy, I measured it with a tape measure, and it's actually 48.5 inches long. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes that can actually screw you over. Let's say if you need it to be exactly 48 inches and you just won't have enough room, or maybe that'll leave an awkward space at the very end or something like that. So just keep in mind that this guy is actually 48.5 inches long. Whereas over here with the Elation, this guy's actually a little bit shorter, which is, in my opinion, actually a little more detrimental than the Chauvet over here. With the Elation COLOUR CHORUS 48, this guy's actually only 46.5 inches long, which is very ironic to me, just because in the title of the product, the model is literally COLOUR CHORUS 48. So it's a little ironic to me that they're not exactly 48 inches long. Next up, with the construction on both of these fixtures, I really like the Chauvet in its construction just because it has these really flat edges. I'm not sure if you can see that. I'm not sure if my camera's gonna refocus here, but you can see it's got these really flat edges. So basically what that allows you to do is you can take a fixture, another Ovation, and just stack it right next to it, and you'll have a very consistent color wash. Whereas over here, it's not that big of a deal, but over here on the Elation, there's actually the yoke, or the kind of this the stand, the leg right here, that sticks out just a little bit, and I don't anticipate that being that big of a deal. It is that if you want to have a lot of these fixtures again laid out in a long line, which is usually common for lighting like the back of the stage where the cyclorama is, it's just going to be a little bit difficult to kind of get them perfectly lined up to each other. And then it also might create a dip in your color wash just because the fixtures aren't right next to each other. There's going to be a little bit of gap between your LEDs, and that might cause a little bit of a gap in your color wash. I don't anticipate that being an issue, and these guys both have such wide beam angles that it should mix just fine. So just be aware of that. Next, let me see. Again, going back to construction, one thing that I really like about the COLOUR CHORUS is you can see that when I turn it here, it'll stay. It's actually got these really, really nice legs on it that are like, it's not difficult to move, but you definitely have to be putting some force into it, and you have to be purposely moving it for it to tilt up and down. And so I really like that. Whereas over here with the Chauvet Ovation, you can see this guy, it'll just fall back down. So you actually have to tilt it up to where you want it. And then if you can see down here, down low, there's actually, let's see if you can kind of see it there. You can see there's a little knob that then you have to go in and then tighten it up. And then that way, now it won't turn. So it's a little bit more of a pain. For the Ovation, again, it stays by itself, but it's kind of cool because they actually implemented these little tiny levers down here where if you really want to get it like firmly tilted so like it won't even tilt whatsoever, even if you like forcefully move it, you can actually just lock down this little knob. And now, if I got this other one too over here, now there's no way in heck that I'm ever going to be able to tilt this fixture. That's rock solid. So I really like that construction. Also, just going to the entire fixture construction, I like the metal feel of the Color Chorus 48. The Chauvet is also, the Ovation is also completely metal, but this guy just feels a little more solidly built, and so that's really nice. I think both of them should be pretty durable. Again, this guy just has a metal chassis. As you can see though, it's actually cut out. It's got these giant cutouts on the bottom, and so I think what they've done is they've kind of made the fixture very efficient when it comes to weight, and so this guy actually weighs just a tad bit less. I'll probably put up on the screen how much each one actually weighs since I don't have that number with me, but this guy is definitely a little less heavy. Oh, as I slam it there, it's a little less heavy than the Color Chorus over here. So that is one pro and con of both the Ovation and the Color Chorus. The Color Chorus has a little bit of more sturdy construction, whereas the Ovation is a little lighter. Both I think should hold up fine with touring and stuff like that. I think that with their construction, the metal chassis, they should be fine. Next, in terms of their construction, one thing that I really like that the Ovation did is they have all the connectors over here on the side. You can see, if my camera will focus up here, I'm not sure if there's enough light. Basically, you've got a PowerCon connector, you've got an EtherCon connector. This fixture supports ArtNet and scanning ACN. Scanning ACN is really nice. I like using that one. It's really efficient. And then you've got your 5-pin DMX in and your 3-pin DMX in. So here's all your input connectors right here. Next, over here on the other side, it's then got 3-pin DMX out, 5-pin DMX out. You've got your EtherCon net out, and then you've got your power out for power linking over PowerCon. Just in case you guys are wondering, when it comes to the network capabilities of this fixture, it does not operate as the node. So basically, if you run ArtNet into one side of the fixture, you can't get raw DMX out of the other fixture. Some fixtures actually like act as a node, and that makes it super nice for running your universes and stuff like that. But anyways, let me get back to what I was talking about. With the connectors over here on the Color Chorus, it's not as nice. I don't think it's as nice, just because you can see that the connectors are kind of tucked away in this little pocket here inside of the fixture, and so it just makes it a little harder. It just makes it a little harder to kind of get in there and connect up your connectors, and it also then makes them have to go around the yoke. If you can kind of see with the cable, it's coming straight out of the Ovation right there, whereas this guy, if it was tilted up, let me see, hang on, let me undo these brakes here. If this guy was actually tilted up, you can see that then your cable kind of has to go around the leg rather than coming straight out. So I do like that construction about the Chauvet. So far I think the Chauvet is kind of winning in my opinion in terms of its construction, even though the Elation is just a little more hefty. Another thing about the Color Chorus that bugs me is it has its 2 net ports in the back, rather than kind of tucked into these little like corners right here. So by having them in the back, if you have like a super long connector, or sorry, let me plug that in there. If you have a super long connector or something, it might be a little more difficult to actually get it to tuck under the fixture body there. This guy, the regular EtherCon, I think just a Neutral connector there, works fine, but I can just kind of anticipate there being some issues there. So just be careful of that. Again, on the Chauvet though, they're tucked nicely up into these corners there. Going back to just overall construction, one thing I really like about the Chauvet Ovation B-1965 is that this guy here, if I undo this clamp here, this guy's nice because if you look on the back here, you can actually take off the legs right here, and you can actually, it has a little mounting hole right there. So you can take like an O-clamp or something and just screw it right into there, and that enables you to really tug this guy super close to like your bars, or it enables you to do some super sweet like eye candy effects. For instance, if you have a bar going straight, like if you have like a truss or something, and the truss, one of the poles on the truss is going like right across here, you can clamp the fixture right onto there. So I really like the fact that it has this mounting hole right there, rather than always having to use these giant ugly legs. Whereas right here over on the Elation doesn't have quite as fat legs. You can see that these are actually a little skinnier. The Chauvet's legs come out a few inches from the body, whereas the Elation's legs are pretty much tucked right up underneath it. but unfortunately it doesn't have any mounting points or rigging points on the fixture body itself, so these legs are pretty much always permanently attached. If you look at it, it's pretty impossible to remove the leg of this fixture. So if you want it to sit flat somewhere, kind of use that as a scenic element, or again as eye candy or something like that, you have to have this yoke on there. So just keep that in mind. So again, just the overall construction and setup and stuff like that, I think that the Chauvet Ovation is definitely winning right now. It's got some nice perks, and again, in terms of weight, it's a little less hefty than the Elation Color Chorus over here, and so that's just going to be really nice for touring and stuff like that. Let me see if I have any other initial notes that I kind of jotted down for in terms of construction, but otherwise I don't think there's that much. Oh yes, actually let me mention one other thing. In terms of the menus, the Chauvet's menu, I really like the menu flow. I don't know, to me it's really logical, and it's also got these really nice menu buttons, and it's got a really it's kind of hard to see. The text is a little small, but it's got this really easy to read display with lots of little pixels, and so the font looks really nice. But I mean, I don't really care about that. It's more just that it's super easy to read and super easy to navigate around and change the address and stuff like that. So I really like it in that way. You can see it pops up with a little pop menu, and you can just click menu to escape, and you can hold down menu to get back to your main kind of status display. It'll actually tell you the temperature, what protocol it's using up there at the top, what mode it's in, what personality, and it'll also tell you the IP address, just because I have it set it running in ArtNet right now. So that's super cool. Let me go over and show you guys the menu on the Elation. I don't like the Elation Color Chorus menu as much, just because you can see it doesn't have as many pixels. It's got the kind of this nasty font, doesn't show you as much status, and then it also has like these plastic buttons, and so they just don't feel like they hold up that long. But I mean, which is kind of, I don't know, the opposite of the overall construction of the Elation Color Chorus. So if I click on menu here, then you can see that it kind of takes me into this menu flow where you have to go by page, like, I don't know, option by option, where it's kind of giving you different pages like the Ovation did. So there's just kind of another downfall of the Color Chorus, but otherwise, I mean, I wouldn't call it a downfall. I'm sorry, it's just, I don't know, just another negative. But otherwise, the Chauvet Ovation is definitely winning out in terms of construction. So let's see how they do color-wise. So let me see if there's anything else I should mention. All right, so as we're getting into color here, one thing I did want to show you guys is the Ovation B-1965FC actually comes with this nice frost filter that you can slide right into its front lens. So if I lean this guy up real quick, there we go. If I lean this guy up, it's really cool because you can actually just take this frost filter. It's going to be a little difficult just because I don't have that much room and I'm only using one hand. But it's really neat because it just slides right in to this little channel on the fixture. So you can see it just slides right in. It's kind of more of a two-handed process because there's actually this little tiny lever down beneath. If you can kind of see, there's a little lever right there that you pull down, and then that just kind of allows you to slide this in. And it'll also lock it in then while you're moving the fixture around. And this is nice because with this frost filter, it just makes, you see kind of the difference with the frost filter on and off. It looks a lot sharper without the diffusion filter, without that frost filter on there. And then what that'll do is it'll cut down on your brightness a little bit, but it just allows you to get much smoother color washes rather than maybe sometimes being able to see each individual projection of like the red, green, blue, amber, and lime LEDs. So as we're as we're getting into color, like I just said, the Chauvet Ovation series of Battens, they all have red, green, blue, amber, and lime LEDs. Now that lime LED is really important for getting this really nice white. It also allows you to do some really cool pastels, and it's weird. I really don't understand how it mixes in with all the other colors, but it's just kind of this like yellowish green color that they call lime that just helps your color mixing a lot. Whereas over here on the Color Chorus, unfortunately, this guy only has red, green, blue, and amber LEDs. The amber definitely helps fill a gap where sometimes mixing red and green kind of, I don't know, it fails you. It's really difficult to get a really nice deep amber or deep orange color. So that's one thing that I do like about having amber LEDs on both these fixtures. But this guy lacks lime, and so sometimes it's a little harder to get, or the bright white or some really nice pastels. So let's go check it out. I'm gonna go hit off the lights and let's go check out how the colors look on each. Alrighty, I've just flicked off the lights and I just put every single possible LED on both of the Battens on. That means that, again, we've got the red, green, blue, amber, and lime LEDs all lit up on the Chauvet Ovation B-1965FC. And then over here on the color chorus, I have the red, green, blue, and amber LEDs lit up on the Color Chorus 48. If we take a step back, it's really hard to kind of compare brightnesses with both fixtures on just by the naked eye, but you can kind of see on the camera, it appears to me that the Chauvet Ovation is a tad bit brighter, and I think I can kind of attribute that brightness to the addition of those lime LEDs. If I take out those lime LEDs, you can see that the color temperature goes down. It kind of becomes that bluish white that you'll see with LEDs a lot of times. And now it looks like that the color chorus is a little brighter. So I think it's just those lime LEDs that kind of just give it a little bit of a bump up against the color chorus there. So the lime LEDs on the Ovation, I don't know, just kind of bump it up in terms of brightness. This is just really interesting to me though, just because when I was comparing the photometrics of both the fixtures on my computer here, if we scroll down here, I believe that the Chauvet Ovation, let's see, when it talks about the luminance, here you go, luminance at 5,000 lux at 5 meters. So that's interesting. When I compared that photometric right there with the Chauvet Ovation B-1965 right there, when I compared those with the photometrics for the Color Chorus 48, you can see they actually give you this entire document. That's one thing I do like a lot, Elation. They'll get you a lot of data. When I compared that, again, 5 meters right here, let's do full on. It looks like it's 2,660 lux. So theoretically, the Chauvet Ovation over here would actually be about twice as bright. But you can tell, I mean, it's definitely brighter, but it's not that big of a difference, which is, I don't know, it's a bit of a bummer to me. And it just kind of shows you how, I don't know, how difficult it is to compare fixtures just based off of the photometrics. If I was just comparing these fixtures just online, I would say, okay, it looks like the Chauvet Ovation is going to be twice as bright. That's awesome. It's twice as bright. Let's go for it. Whereas right here, I mean, again, there's not that big of a difference in terms of brightness. Again, it is definitely brighter, but when you take out that line, the Elation is actually just a little bit brighter. So it's something interesting. Just always know to be a little wary of photometrics. Anyways, let's get going here and let's kind of start comparing colors. One thing I'll also like to note with all the LEDs on, kind of a full white right here, is it looks like automatically the Elation has a little bit of a smoother color projection out of it. So you can see it's lighting the wall very smoothly, whereas with the Ovation down here, it's not as smooth, and I think the reason for that is just because of its distributions of LEDs. I'm not sure how easy it is for you guys to see that, but this bottom row right here on the LEDs is just a few limes, ambers, and greens. That's all it is. There's no red whatsoever on that row, and then the row up is just blue, red, and a few limes. So, I'm sorry, I think I said yellow before. On the bottom row, there's lime, amber, and green, whereas on the row right above it, you've got blue, red, another blue, more reds, and then a few limes scattered in there. And so with that, it's not a very, I don't like that design just because it doesn't allow you to get very smooth color washes. Again, right here you can kind of see there's that green lime-ish bar at the bottom, and I think this is because of the amount of lime LEDs in this bottom row here. So that's a bit of a bummer. It doesn't look like the color is as smooth, but again, maybe it gets better. I'm just gonna kind of throw this wash filter on top and kind of see what that does. There you go. You can see it kind of diffuses the LEDs right there, and see kind of what that does. That does definitely make it a lot smoother of a wash for the Chauvet. So it is nice to throw that in there. If I pull it off here, you can definitely see how that kind of changes the light. It definitely makes it less of a rainbow sort of different colors. It helps to kind of mash them together to make them a little lined up there. But just because the Elation doesn't come with that frost filter, I'm just gonna kind of test the colors without the frost filter on. So anyways, let me go back to the console here, and I'll start comparing colors. Right here, I'm gonna take out all the colors except red. Let's start with red. I'm not sure how well you guys can see this on the camera. Unfortunately, my little preview monitor on my iPhone just died. But right here, from my point of view, it looks like the color chorus doesn't have as bright of a red, so I think the Ovation has a very bright red, but the color chorus has a deeper red. And so basically, I don't know, it's just more saturated red, whereas the color chorus almost looks amber to me, whereas I can definitely tell that, I'm sorry, the Ovation definitely looks amber to me, whereas with the color chorus, it's a very deep red, which is important to kind of get that full spectrum in there. Again, the Ovation is definitely brighter. It's got a brighter color red, but it just doesn't seem as deep. So again, it's very slight. I'm not even sure if you guys can really see it on the camera there. But over here to the left with the Ovation, I don't think that the red is as good as the red over here on the color courses. So let me fade out the red here. And then actually, while I'm fading it out, let's test something real quick. I always like looking at the color fades. And if you're looking at it, again, it's really neat because both these fixtures do have built-in curves, and so you can kind of emulate like a halogen curve where it kind of fades out very slowly because it has that natural cooldown. Whereas with LEDs, you can flash them off right away. You can see if I hit my blackout button, it flashes them off right away. One thing I think is neat about the Chauvet, if you can kind of see it there, it's very responsive. The LED is very responsive to like instant blackouts like that. If you would ever want to kind of strobe it like that, and it's just the LED drivers seem to be a little quicker. Whereas over here on the Elation color courses, there's a little bit of delay on off. There's a little bit of delay with the LEDs on going off. So you can see if I click it off, it'll snap off, and if I turn it on, I can even see that the Ovation even beats it coming on. So the LED drivers just seem to be a little slow. I'm not sure if it's necessarily the drivers, but maybe it's just the, I don't know, whatever PCBs are in there that kind of controlling that dimmer. So that's a little unfortunate that it's not as responsive. But when it comes to dimming, actually, I don't know, both have really neat dimmer curves. You can see that you can tell they're different. You can see the Elation seems to be more flat just in its standard dimming curve. You can see that as I fade it out. You can see the changes happening, whereas it seems to me that the Chauvet doesn't have much happening until you really get down kind of almost near like 30%, and then it starts fading out. So that's a bit of a bummer. That's just one thing that you kind of need to account for in setting up these fixtures. If you're using it in theater, I really suggest kind of going through with all your fixtures and making sure that all of your dimmer curves match. And sometimes there's even, again, dimmer curve personalities into the fixture itself. So I would try those. And it's neat too because I can set those right here from my console under dimmer. You can actually just set your curves right there. Alrighty, so before I finish up the video, I also thought I may as well show you guys those eye candy effects that I kind of mentioned earlier. So right here you can see I just have a simple sine wave scrolling across both these fixtures. And unfortunately, just because the fixtures don't have homogenized LEDs, there's not a single pixel, there's not a single dot of all red, green, blue, and amber and everything all in one single dot. It's all spread out. Each LED module is all spread out. That's what I mean by homogenized. It makes it a little difficult to do nice looking eye candy effects. You can see from my point of view right now, rather than a white, which this is supposed to be with a with red, green, blue at full, it literally just to me looks like red, green, and blue LEDs. Same over here on the Elation color course. It just looks like red, green, and blue LEDs. So that's a bit of a bummer while doing eye candy effects with Batten. That's Batten fixtures in general, and that's where if you do want to use a Batten fixture for uplighting, you need a very high-end Batten fixture, such as maybe the Chroma Q. I think it's the Color Force 2 series, and that actually has that completely homogenized face. So that's really neat. It definitely helps in doing some neat eye candy effects. It is nice though, just because the Chauvet does have this frost filter here that you can kind of throw on. And that does, I don't know, make it a little, it's not that big of a difference, but it just diffuses your color just a little bit, which is nice. Alrighty, so right here, as you can see, I have a quick dimmer effect going across the Ovation. And I also have another dimmer effect going, another rainbow effect going across the color course as well. I'm going to take out the color force right now just so we can focus on the Chauvet Ovation B-1965. If that's not a mouthful. But one thing you can kind of notice is that it's very, very harsh. It looks like the red is kind of snapping and flashing all randomly throughout there. And I think the reason for that is because, again, it just has that really crappy dimmer curve. It'll start from, like, basically from 0 to 30 is where all the dimming happens, then anything above that is basically full on. So because of that, it looks very crappy going across the way just because the red just kind of snaps through. So it looks very, very choppy. Does not look very good. Whereas right here, if I bring up the Elation, you can see it's still quick. Same speed, same exact effect going on both of them. But you can see it's very smooth going across the range. Whereas, again, if I bring up the color chorus, it looks snappy. So kind of compare those for yourselves. I think that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I don't know, I really enjoy making these videos and kind of getting to show you guys some of these different cool opportunities I have to kind of show you guys fixtures. So I really hope this recommendation / fixture product comparison video worked out for you guys. So I hope to see you guys soon. Thanks so much for watching.